Hello Earthlings, Neutron Sound here. Album review time has once again reared its head. Today I'm going to be examining everything you've come to expect by the Last Shadow Puppets. For those of you that don't know, the Last Shadow Puppets are basically a collaboration between Alex Turner from the Arctic Monkeys and Miles Kane. I mean, James Ford from Simian Mobile Disco and Zach Dawes from Many Mansions are also members of the group, but they don't appear in any photos, and they don't write any of the songs. So, the puppets are essentially Alex and Miles, and this is their first album in 8 years, and the cover is a photo of Alex Turner's Aunt Tina. Well, she's not really his aunt, but it is Tina Turner. And their sound has evolved, probably due to Alex and Miles' time away from each other. Well, maybe not away from each other, but not recording as the puppets. Let's get to the music. Track 1 is Aviation, sung by Miles. It opens with some string atmospherics. The strings are very much the Last Shadow Puppets thing. It kind of harkens back to The Age of the Understatement, which opened with its title track. But the drums on Aviation are much heavier than the ones on The Age of the Understatement, which is kind of, I would say, a reference to the drum sound that Matt Helders from the Arctic Monkeys had been getting on their last 3 albums, which they did since The Age of the Understatement. Track 2, Miracle Aligner, was written by Alex without Miles. It just sounds like an Arctic Monkeys song. It's got a real sort of humbug AM vibe to it, especially since the vocals are in octaves, a thing which happened all over the place on AM, and it's a nice dark surf tune thing. Dracula Teeth slows the tempo down quite a bit. This is the first time you really hear Alex and Miles singing together in harmony at sort of equal levels, although Alex is clearly on the melody. But Miles does have some nice call and response bits near the end. Track 4 is the title track. It's got a real Beach Boys vibe, except for the lack of harmonies. Sort of that weird Beach Boys Pet Sounds era vibe. Some nice keyboard sounds, and again the strings. It's got your typical sort of God only knows, good vibrations, I guess Till I Die sort of dang, 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 dang organ. It clearly was not arranged by Brian Wilson, but it does clearly draw a bit of inspiration from him. Element of Surprise picks the tempo up with another humbug AM sounding tune from Alex. It's quite funky, it's got a nice sort of spacious drum beat where not a lot of limbs are hitting together. And it's got some quasi-romantic chords, which are kind of Alex Turner's signature. And then track 6 is Bad Habits, where Miles takes the mic, and it's kind of a complete 180. It just really rocks hard. It's pure adrenaline, the way the chorus bursts out from a sort of quiet verse. It's just got an oscillating 2-chord vamp. It's sort of SCPR, searing corrosive punk rock with strings. I mean, because it's the Last Shadow Puppets, they gotta have some strings. Theneedledrop claimed that this has more guts than anything on the last 3 Arctic Monkeys albums. Now that is a very biased sounding statement, but Needle, yes, I'll be calling him Needle. Needle is right if you listen objectively to those 3 albums. But he's wrong if you like to get offended. And most of you Earthlings would prefer to get offended than listen to the Arctic Monkeys. Which is a bit of a shame considering I think Humbug is a masterpiece. But let's look at the last 3 Arctic Monkeys albums. We have Humbug, a moody desert rock masterpiece. Suck It and See, a mediocre pop album. And AM, a pretty good pop album. None of those descriptions scream hard rocking in the same way as their first 2 albums. They had some real rocking out moments. Meanwhile, if we look at Miles Kane's 2 solo albums, they were much in the vein of those first two Arctic Monkeys that quite often rocked out. So it's really no surprise that a song written by Miles Kane should rock harder than a song written by Alex Turner, considering what each of them were doing in the time period between these two Last Shadow Puppets albums. Because Alex was trying to get away from the punk vibe, and Miles was kind of staying in the sort of same old style of rock that he had previously done, not only in the Last Shadow Puppets, but the Rascals before that, and the Little Flames before that. So Needle was sort of right to say that Bad Habits has more guts than anything on the last three Arctic Monkeys albums, but I don't necessarily agree with the way he phrased it. I mean, I guess it's sort of implied that Humbug didn't take guts to make, which it did, but I just can't really see anything mildly controversial or opinionated about it. I just think he's just stating a fact in a way that attempts to sound controversial because, I don't know. But he's definitely right about Bad Habits rocking hard. But anyway, back to everything you've come to expect. Track 7 is Sweet Dreams, Tennessee, written by Alex alone, and it's got a sort of Pretty Visitors type 6/8 chug, a sort of bum, 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 although the tone is not as ominous here as on Pretty Visitors. The strings give it a sort of old school vibe, as they do most of the Puppet songs, and they play a nice melody at the end as well. Used to Be My Girl brings back the dark vibe that we were kind of getting at the beginning of this album. It's got a sort of drony acoustic riff at the start, and some tremolo guitar in the background of the chorus. That's really all I have to say about that. She Does the Woods is another Alex solo vocal. This one has a more Humbug Suck It and See vibe than the Humbug AM vibe. There's a nice part in the middle where the drums and bass drop out and it's just the strings and guitar. Again, not much to say about this song besides that. Miles takes the spotlight again for the third time on this album on Pattern, the longest track, and the funkiest. It's actually got a really nice bass line that Zach Dawes plays. That is the only time you will ever hear Zach Dawes' name mentioned in a review of a Last Shadow Puppets album. Maybe. Either way, Pattern has a really great bass line, which adds to the funkiness of it, and it's got some really good string counter melodies to Miles's voice. And then the final track is the Dream Synopsis, the most mellow song on the album. And surprise, it's written by Alex. It's got some nice lyrics on it, as did Pattern. Pattern and the Dream Synopsis are two songs with really good lyrics. I guess also Sweet Dreams, Tennessee, but they're more sort of deliberately trying to be old school than these last two tracks. But the Dream Synopsis is a nice ballad, some great chords, and lyrics about dreams, appropriately enough. For some strange reason, Alex mentions Miles in one of his dreams. You and Me and Miles Kane. But yeah, it's a great closer to a pretty good album. I don't quite know whether or not I like this album as much, a bit less or a bit more than The Age of the Understatement. I mean, it's clearly a different sound, a bit more modern sounding. Probably the most striking difference is the drums. And it really shows how Alex and Miles, but especially Alex, have both matured. And yeah, so if you've listened to this album, what did you think of it? I'm curious to know. This is Neutron Sound signing off. Go forth and be awesome.